Thank you, Madam Chairman. Before I ask my questions, I do want to make a comment. And Chairman Grassley touched on this at the beginning of the hearing. It is so disheartening, and actually it's almost laughable, to hear our colleagues on the other side of the dais complain about lack of consultation with the White House. Now, under President Biden, there were numerous members, and Senator Grassley talked about, mentioned Senator Tillis also this morning, and me, and Senator Haggerty, that were not consulted at all. And there were not one, not two, but three judicial nominees that the Biden White House moved forward on without working with Senator Haggerty and me. So my colleagues across the dais had the opportunity to say something about those actions at that time, and they chose not to. They all went along with what they felt like was the position of the White House. So I find it, as I said, concerning, disheartening, and really curious as to why they would take the position they have. Professor Mascott, I want to give you a chance to respond to some of the claims that I've heard from my colleagues across the dais that you're not qualified for the role. And I found it very interesting to hear them talk about this because they rubber-stamped people that were brought forward by the Biden administration who were blatantly unqualified, and they were inexperienced judicial nominees. And I think that your credentials speak for themselves. I noted that you achieved the highest GPA at George Washington Law School, the highest in history.
Thank you.
Which is significant. And, of course, your clerkships, which have been discussed this morning, and you've held senior positions at the DOJ. You've spent years as a professor in constitutional and administrative law, and your list goes on and on. So speak for a moment about why you are ready, why this has prepared you to be a fair and unbiased judge.
Thank you so much, Senator Blackburn. And I'm deeply honored, of course, by President Trump's nomination to a seat on the Third Circuit and this committee's consideration. And as has been mentioned by some other senators and Senator McConnell, I've had the honor of being a public servant and working on all three branches of government, multiple positions there. Have been really grateful to serve for many years as a law professor, teaching students, some of whom are even working here today as committee staff. During that time, being able to file dozens of amicus briefs, sometimes on behalf of senators of this committee in courts around the country, in the Supreme Court, and then working as an attorney in the Department of Justice and now the White House on issues of separation of powers and testifying at this committee. And if I were to have the deep honor to be confirmed by this body, I would, in every case, bring exacting rigor and care and acknowledge the role of the judge as a very limited one in our system to resolve just discrete cases and controversies on questions that are brought before us where there's jurisdiction.
I wanted to talk with you a little bit, and you've written several pieces on the presidential constitutional authority to remove executive officers, and I noted your law review article in 2018, who are officers of the U.S., and I know that there is discussion around the president's ability to remove these officers from administrative agencies. And I know you can't talk about specifics, but talk generally about the state of the law when it comes to the president's constitutional removal power.
Thank you, Senator. And so, as you mentioned, I want to be very careful sitting as a judicial nominee now and not as an academic in addressing issues that are in a very real way before many courts and many cases right now in the country. But as you've referenced, those pieces we're mentioning in the Stanford piece and then others, that the Constitution vests the executive power in the president, and it's by design because the president, through the Electoral College, is of course selected by the American people. And that if the president has the duty to carry out that power, the idea that that includes within it the supervisory power, and we would never want in our system of government anyone really to be exercising policy-making power who's not accountable back to the people. And so that just raises questions about if there are full tenure protections, whether individuals might be at some point too insulated from the political system and presidential supervision for it to be consistent with the constitutional structure.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Professor Mascott, welcome. Is it fair to say that you have fairly little actual litigation